Good afternoon to all, and many thanks to PwC and Temasek for inviting me. It's an honor. By the way, Yulene, being the veteran in this room probably, please next time put some pre-World War II music. I'm lost with teenagers. Okay. So before moving to my presentation, I would like to make two brief comments, which are very personal. The first one is that if we are serious about sustainable development and sustainable finance, we have first to be serious about sustainability-related data and sustainability reporting. There is no private strategy, no public policy of any significance without appropriate data to start with. So let's not be mistaken. To be serious, what we are talking about is a real evolution of corporate reporting. It took us decades to finalize and stabilize the financial reporting, and now we are confronted with a very short period to put sustainability reporting on an equal footing with financial reporting. That's the goal. Okay, we can argue about the pace, how long will it take, but if we want to meet the challenges of transitions, we need to be serious about that. So with this, I'll try to illustrate the I tried to deliver an update on the situation of sustainability reporting in the EU and also in relation with, of course, the other initiatives. In the interest of time, so first of all, as clearly Nadia explained, why am I singled out to a certain extent, as you explained? It's because we are standard setters, but we operate under the aegis, the umbrella of a legal regime, a legal framework. Now it is in law in the EU, and that's important. So common law would be bottom-up. In the EU, we have a tradition of top-down. We start with the principles, the constitution, then the law, and then we go to the standards. So I am, of course, obedient to a legal regime. So what are the key features of that? Because that's important. Very quickly, 8. 1, it's a mandatory regime of reporting for all large entities. And large in the EU is not so large. We're talking about businesses of more than 250 employees, 55,000 entities in the EU. Probably 50% of the GDP. 2, I was discussing pace. So the system is ambitious, but there is a pace. Progressive phasing starting in 2024, so reporting in 2025, on the current reporters under the previous regime. 2025 in 2026 for the other large entities, 2026 for the listed SMEs, and 2028 for non-EU companies with branches and subsidiaries in the EU. We will discuss that, I suspect, in the fireside chat. Other SMEs, other than listed, are encouraged to adopt a simplified voluntary standard that EFRAG is elaborating, because we would like to cover the whole economy, at least to offer the opportunity. Fourth feature, a comprehensive coverage of sustainability matters. So I'm sorry, we're not asking ourselves about prioritization. We believe that environment is important, but also just transition is also important. So social matters matter, and governance on top of it is key. Under standards elaborated by EFRAG, and adopted by the European Commission via delegated act. For those who are not familiar, and it's complex, a delegated act means that it's applicable throughout the Union in the 27 member states without transposition. It's direct. So once the delegated act is adopted, boom, that's regulation. A key concept, which I will briefly mention because Elke was eloquent, is double materiality. So impact and financial risks and opportunities. The sixth element is key also, location and timing. The location, it's a separate section of the management report, and that means that it is going to be released at the same time as the financial statements. Mandatory audit, mandatory assurance, limited assurance to start with, then moving to reasonable assurance relatively quickly. And finally, last but not least, digitization from the first reporting. Well, of course, maybe a little enthusiastic here because there might be 1 year delay, but okay, we are working on the digital tagging as we speak. A directive in theory is transposed, not in theory, by law is transposed into national law. It will be the case for this, but the level of harmonization is already very high. So apart from some specific matters, such as the supervision of audit and things like that, I do not expect big changes in national law. They are not going to add more because people are saying it's already pretty significant. Now, as you have understood, you have the legal regime and you have the regulatory regime, which is called the ESRS. By the way, CSRD means Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. ESRS means European Sustainability Reporting Standards. Sorry for the alphabet soup, but I understand now that the alphabet is only 3 or 4 letters, so it's, I feel a lot better now. But the soup is going to be a bit thin, maybe. So what about the ESRS? So as I said, they are elaborated by EFRAG, and they are submitted to the Commission as technical advice, and the Commission is adopting them via delegated acts. So where are we with what we call the sector-agnostic set of standards, which is our first set of standards, which apply to all companies, irrespective of the sector or sectors they operate in. We are very, very close to the finish line. So we started in June 2021. I'm not going to rehash the long journey. We released our technical advice in November 2022. Then the Commission had to prepare the delegated act and perform its own processes. And we expect this to be adopted in July this year. By the way, if you have a look at your screens, maybe you will see today or tomorrow the launch of the public consultation of the Commission, because they need, under what we call better regulation, we had our own public consultation last year. Now they have to have their own public consultation 1 month, so until the beginning of July. So if you want to have a good look at the final text, you can have a look at that. It's history as we speak, you know, in our modest, of course, world. What are we talking about? Here I'm talking about the technical advice. My information tells me that, you know, there are, of course, adjustments following the work performed by the Commission, but it shouldn't change the integrity of the overall construct. There will be, I'm sure, lengthy explanations and lengthy analysis to see the differences, but I'm not too worried. We have produced 12 standards in line with the coverage that I described earlier, E, S, and G. 2 of a cross-cutting nature, ESRS 1, which is generic, which is explaining a number of key concepts, and which does not require any information to be disclosed. ESRS 2 is the standard that relates to everything that is common to all matters. Because, since we are not specialized on one matter, we felt that, regarding governance and sustainability, or strategy and sustainability, or the analysis of impacts, risks, and opportunities in terms of materiality, we needed one big disclosure requirement. And then we have 10 topical standards. 5 for environment, ESRS E1, which is the counterpart of S2, climate change, ESRS 2, pollution, water and marine resources, biodiversity and ecosystems, resource use and circular economy. As you see, easy, E1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then social, split by category, own workforce, workers in the value chain, consumers and end users, and affected communities, and 1 for governance on business conduct. Governance of sustainability is covered under ESRS 2. In total, 84 disclosure requirements. Before the work, the streamlining exercise of the Commission, a little more than 1,000 data points, because if you want to be serious, you can't cover with a handful of indicators. By the way, 70% of that is narrative. Narrative in sustainability reporting is key. It's autonomous, by contrast with financial reporting, where it always explains a figure. Here it is autonomous. It's a policy, it's an organization, it's a process, it's a target, a generic target, okay? In the future sets, I will say a word about that. For your reading, but I am sure if you have not read yet, of course, each disclosure requirement is structured in a similar way in order to facilitate, by the way, understanding, implementation, and digitization. The first paragraph of each disclosure is explaining the information required. The second paragraph is principles-based. It is the description of the objective of the disclosure. And then, in particular for narrative, we felt it was important to be more precise. So we have the specific data points to be included under shall, A, B, C, D, and then sometimes subdivided into 1 Roman, 2 Roman, 3 Roman. I'll get quicker. Okay, this is important for digital reporting. We are working on the digital taxonomy now, and we will consult as soon as we can. I mentioned in passing that I believe that for interoperability purposes, I am a great fan of multi-tagging. Same information, 2, 3 tags, to avoid multiplication and to simplify the life of preparers. Double materiality, that has been eloquently described by Elko, so I'm not going to elaborate. I would like to highlight the pivotal importance of the materiality assessment. This is absolutely key. Responsibility of the preparer, a little bit like in financial reporting. All material information regarding impacts, risks, and opportunity has to be disclosed. And of course, this requires an objective process with thresholds and no prioritization. You don't say, this one I address today, this one I will address tomorrow. If it's material, it's material. And you will have to report under ESRS on how you perform your materiality assessment. I see the time running. Okay. So, sector-specific standards, this is the next batch. We have identified 39 standards. We have reconciliation tables with the other classifications, in particular the SASB industry classification. It's working on the basis of what we call the NACE classification, which is the one retained in the EU, and we will progressively deliver this over 3 to 4 years. We're going to start with the high-impact sectors. And in order to get what is additional, because you have to, sector-specific will not be optional, it will be additional to the sector agnostic for the sectors the businesses operate in. So we are having a look at EU-specific or international regulation, SASB sector standards. By the way, we are consulting at EFRAG on our response to your consultation, Hiroshi. So this is available on the website if you want to have a look at it. You can have, it was released on Friday. We have a look also at the GRI sector standards and of course other sources, best practices, research, benchmarks, etc., to develop, and we have working communities in order to pave the way. A key point, and then I'm going to be finished. Interoperability, that's a word that has been used. By the way, it is different from you mentioned earlier, and the vote was about integrated reporting shouldn't be confused with interconnectivity. And what I think the ISSB is considering is integrated reporting. Connectivity is something else. We are working on it. In fact, this is the global relationship between standardized reporting and the rest, if I may. So we have 2 goals. The first one is to build on and contribute to global sustainability reporting progress. There is no question that the EU is committed to support a global baseline and for all. The second point is that we do not want EU reporting entities or entities reporting in accordance to ESRS to have to comply with multiple reporting requirements. I have been advocating forever, since the beginning, in favor of a single sustainability report, going together with the multi-tagging at digital level. For me, this is the ideal. When I go to sleep, I dream about that, and I wake up and say, okay, I hope my dream comes true. So hard work with the ISSB, many meetings, probably, I don't know, between 10, 20 technical meetings, and also a personal conclusion, which we have not reached yet as a joint statement. I would be a little more optimistic than Hiroshi maybe. I personally assess that we are so close on climate that there would be, an ESRS complying entity would be also complying with S2. We are doing the same with GRI. So they have been our partners in the standard setting travel since the very beginning of our journey. And we assess jointly that there is a higher level of interoperability. So GRI reporters will be well prepared to prepare ESRS compliant information. And I also think that we are discussing this, it wouldn't be necessary to have multiple reports. And now a brief snapshot on what we are doing. Standard setting activities is the second point. We are working on the higher impact sectors. We are also working on the voluntary statement for SMEs and the standard for listed SMEs. And then it will follow up with financial institutions and the remaining, and also the non-EU parent company standard, which is, of course, of no interest in Asia, I'm sure. So no question about that, I'm sure, in the coming fireside chat. What's more important, we've been asked by the Commission, but it was in our plan anyway, to develop non-authoritative guidance and implementation support. So we are providing 3 deliverables. We are working on it for the summer. How to perform your materiality assessment under ESRS, how to address value chain under ESRS, and what are the data points that you need to consider when you perform your gap analysis between the information you have and the one that you will have to consider. And then we want to open an access point for questions where we would try to answer as quickly as possible. So I have been too fast, but that's it, folks.